All right.
All right.
Do I look nervous? Don't love this. But I used to spend all my time behind the camera, not in front of it.
Zen.
Practicing self-compassion.
There you go. Exactly. All right. Well, welcome to Mind-Body Relationship, where we talk about the mind,
The
body, and the relationship. All right. And today we have a special guest with us. And this is Tricia. Tricia, how about if you introduce yourself and say a bit about yourself?
So my name's Tricia, and I am a student counselor at the Counselling House with Laurie. I have two children, ages 11 and 12. Incorrect. Ages 10 and 12.
Okay.
And
Just in case they're watching.
I have two bonus kids, ages 11 and 14, which is where my 11 came from. So,
okay.
a blended family.
Sounds good.
Which is an adventure.
And today we're going to be talking about self-compassion, right?
Yes.
And so it sounds like with so much going on, you might actually really be in need of practicing self-compassion.
Absolutely. Yep. Practiced it all the way here in preparation for a camera. So.
Well, there we go.
I came across it quite recently in my research into different sort of theoretical modalities and as a way to build self-esteem, really. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would be the starting point in regards to self-compassion?
The starting point would be treating yourself as you would a friend, I guess, is the most basic. Kindness and patience and understanding with yourself when you're struggling or when you're hurting or when you're having just a moment of challenge. It's just treating yourself as you would a friend. And it sounds easy, and we probably do it all the time for other people, but when we turn it on ourselves, it's a little bit different.
Because mostly it seems to me it's about negative thoughts, isn't it? We have negative thoughts in our mind about ourselves, right? It's a way to keep ourselves in line, so to speak.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? So it's kind of like a, what would you say that it is? It's like
that inner critic.
Yeah, an inner critic.
Yeah. And then I had this conversation with somebody. I was telling them about self-compassion and versus self-esteem and sort of the differences between them, whereas self-esteem is evaluative and self-compassion isn't. You give yourself the same sort of kindness and understanding no matter what you're going through or how you're feeling. And they really claimed that their critic motivated them.
Yeah.
Which you would think it would. And the sort of studies are showing that maybe in the short term it motivates you, but if your criticism becomes more of a global statement and ends up I'm a failure or I'm stupid or I'm worthless, these sort of big global statements, it actually undermines your motivation in the long run because it damages your confidence. You'll be far more likely to give up at what you're doing or just not try again if you've had failure. And so self-compassion, you're giving yourself under all conditions. So it's a little bit more powerful in that way. And because it's not evaluative, it's not based on success.
Oh, okay.
So you're less likely to sort of just stop what you're doing because you evaluate yourself in relation to other people in not in comparison, but in shared humanity. We all fail sometimes. We all struggle sometimes. That sort of interconnectedness of humanity is an important part of self-compassion. So not only, it's not just sort of cheerleading, or positive psych for yourself. It's actually, compassion, right? We all suffer, and it also requires a little bit of mindfulness. So you need to be able to acknowledge how you're feeling in reality. So I'm hurting or whatever, and not in catastrophe, like this is the worst thing in the world,
right?
But in reality. And then as soon as you can be mindfully aware of what you're feeling, then you can move into the kindness and the everyone feels this way sometimes, and it's okay, and you've got this, and that sort of idea.
Okay, so is there specific components of self-compassion?
Yeah, so the first one is that treating yourself like a friend, kindness, understanding, and patience. The second piece is that interconnectedness. It has to be that shared humanity piece. Everyone feels this way sometimes. Life involves struggle, and people are not perfect.
Okay.
Imperfection. And the mindfulness component is really, really key. You have to be able to sort of separate yourself from your thoughts and your feelings a little bit, and be able to see, yep, I'm hurting right now. That's hurt that I'm feeling, or that's disappointment, and those three components seem to be the key.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like an acknowledgement.
Yep.
Paying attention to it and sort of like working through it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's okay. Yeah. So Kristen Neff is a researcher, and she's probably the biggest sort of self-compassion researcher. So there's a lot of studies that she has coming out about how self-compassion improves our relationship, how it improves caregiver roles. And it can actually buffer against burnout. So if you're sort of meeting your own needs and allowing you to have that compassion for yourself, you're more able to be in sort of a centered, grounded place for your clients. Even she offers in sort of an in-session practice, or when you're in relation with somebody, if someone's sharing a really difficult story with you, you sort of, as you breathe in, acknowledging that this is difficult for you, and giving yourself some kindness. And then as you breathe out, you're extending that compassion to your client. So needs met for you and needs met for client, as a way to sort of keep yourself available and open to your clients. And then there's the other side of it, whereas you can begin teaching your clients some self-compassion techniques as well as part of interventions.
Oh, okay. That sounds good. Do you have one with you?
An intervention? Yeah, I have a few actually. The one I would think that's sort of the easiest is sort of treating yourself as a friend. So you would bring up a scenario in a relationship that you've been in with a friend and they're struggling, and you would imagine or write down. You can do this in writing if that's more of your thing, and write down how you would begin to support them, the language you would use, the sort of things that you would extend to them, and then you imagine giving that to yourself, and be honest with yourself about how that might change what your situation looks like. So bringing up whatever struggle it is you have currently, and extending those same words and thoughts to yourself. So it sounds easy, but it really isn't sometimes. It can feel difficult, especially if you've closed your heart a little bit off to that kind of love and caring. It's really hard to open your heart up for that. Sometimes if anyone has traumatic background, that can be a little bit difficult.
So let's talk about fight, flight, and freeze. Yeah, because generally speaking, that's what happens, right? That self-critic is actually really a way to fight.
Yeah.
Right? We're fighting ourselves.
Exactly.
In order to keep ourselves in line, right? And then flight, running away, avoidance, really, basically, right? Because you don't want to have anything to do with it.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? And then freeze, which is that constant regurgitation, right? Getting yourself stuck, in essence, basically, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I had that conversation with a friend about motivating, I began to look, and I was like, well, that's a good point. What happens? But so you can give yourself constructive criticism. You can motivate a little bit with that inner critic, like, come on, these sorts of things. But when, like I said, when it sort of gets more global, it actually undermines motivation because it damages your self-confidence. And it can actually, those global statements can trigger the fight, flight, freeze reactivity in your body, right? You can just be like, okay, this is a threat. And then how likely are you really to try anything at all if your body's registering it as a threat? You're going to avoid, you're never going to try, or you're going to give up really quickly. And some of the studies that are showing that people who practice self-compassion will actually stay at a task much longer even if they failed. and they'll come back and try again and again. So in the long run, motivation is positively impacted because the failure is not dependent on the success. It doesn't depend on the success at all. You have that sort of inner self-esteem. So self-esteem is important, but the way we get it's more important. We don't want to get it only in moments of success or only in comparison of ourselves to others. Well, I'm better than them, so I feel better. It's important how we get self-esteem, and self-compassion is a really great way to build self-esteem. It's a healthy way to build self-esteem.
You know, when you were talking, what came to my mind is kids as they struggle with homework.
Yes.
And a lot of the times you'll hear, a story where it is the child sits down, gets so angry or frustrated or whatever, either at the homework itself or at the parent who's trying to help.
Yes, absolutely. You are describing my life.
All right,
Absolutely.
all right. Yes.
Yeah.
And then there's the blow up. Right? The walking away.
Yep.
Right? And
Absolutely.
then the hope would be the coming back to it later in order to be able to achieve the goal.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. When that nervous system's calmed down and they're not triggered and I'm not triggered because,
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult thing.
Absolutely.
I would imagine with all the parents that are working with their kids at home, hoping the school actually really starts.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, working at home was certainly a brutal experience.
I bet.
It really, it was. And there was a lot of that frustration and not a lot of social connections to sort of, release that tension for them or ways that they could.
Exactly. Yeah. So how would practicing mindful self-compassion actually really be a benefit to both parent and child in such circumstances?
Well, lots of studies are showing that it's actually really great for psychological well-being overall, lowering stress, anxiety, depression. There's a lot of really great benefits for self-compassion with that. So in those acute moments, it could sound a lot like it's okay, everybody finds math frustrating sometimes. These sorts
Funny
of,
how we went right to math.
right to math, right to math. Yeah. And especially math is curious because I have a daughter who thinks she's terrible at math. But she's not.
Oh.
Right? She's not. She recently had an assessment and they're like, she's great at math.
Oh.
But she has a belief that she's not.
Oh, interesting.
So, it's interesting to see this reaction of, I can't do it, I'm not good at it, when that's really just a buy-in, to this thought. She's buying into this idea. Math's awful and therefore I'm bad at it.
Well, there you go. I need to run away from it.
Yeah, run away. Yeah, so awareness of sort of that's a belief and not necessarily real. That's that mindful acknowledgement of, you feel like you're terrible at math, but, everybody feels that way. That's most people are like, math. So, yeah. Yeah, so using that language to sort of instill with them so that your voice becomes their inner voice. So self-compassion's a lot like what you would hear from a parent, actually. If you can think about it that way, is that you're almost parenting that inner child of yours when the critic comes up. A parent would say soft things like, it's okay, I love you anyway, these things, I accept you as you are, everybody fails sometimes, whereas, you can imagine our inner critic is more like, you suck, you're terrible, what a failure you are. So if we can switch our inner voice to more, a compassionate parent and how you would parent a child. So that's a really great way to look at what compassion is.
Well, and the judgments too, right? Why do I have to do this? I will never need this.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, along with the critic comes the judgment, for sure. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. It's true. I will use a calculator one day. What is mental math for?
Exactly.
Yeah. Because we just have to.
Oh, dear. Yeah.
So, other practices for self-compassion can look like a daily journal even. of what happened today that I needed to accept. How did I feel today? This hurt me, or I found this a struggle. And then you would walk through those 3 components, but really evaluating it in really written form, which can be really powerful. More than just sort of running it through your mind, right? You can do a little 5 minutes in your brain, or a real quick response to something once you're recognizing that you're, noticing, oh, I'm feeling this way, what's happening. But sort of a daily compassion journal practice is really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, because, everybody has aspects of themselves that they don't particularly care for.
Yep.
Right? And whether it's to do with a pain in the body, right? Or an emotional pain or experience that has happened.
Yeah.
Or just something that you do not like about yourself, right?
Yep.
Just to be able to, in essence, be with it.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
And be okay with it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And to incorporate it into who it is that you are, as opposed to trying to exclude it from you.
Yeah.
Right? And the reality is, it is a part of you.
That's
and
right.
Therefore, that is okay.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a part of the self-compassion.
Absolutely. Piece. Yeah. You almost, you must be able to recognize these things, which is that big mindfulness component, because compassion can't really come without realistic acknowledgement that there are these things about ourselves, right?
Yeah, so true.
Or these thoughts or these feelings, and that's okay, and it's so powerful in that way. That's okay. Everybody has something, and that's, I think, really important. And that's, I find, you asked about kids, is really important for kids, is they're so singular in their thinking. They really do think they're the only one in the world.
Wow.
And, that's just their developmental, at certain stages, it's just a developmentally appropriate way to be, but they can't begin to think in that more broad sense of, do other people feel this way? They're not really stepping outside of that. So talking about that and or sharing your own. Yeah, I feel that way sometimes too. Really being honest with them, and allows them to see that it's okay to be honest about, things that are failures or our own personal struggles.
That's right.
That's normal even for an adult.
Yeah.
It's ongoing.
It's
never going to end.
There you go, right? We're all working on it. We're all on the journey.
That's right.
That's right. As I say, wisdom is gained by bouncing off the walls.
Yeah.
Look how wise you are.
That's right. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Tricia, for coming and joining us and talking to us about that.
You're welcome.
And please check out all of our meditations. We have a series of self-compassion, mindful meditations for you if you'd like to work through them yourself. That's fantastic. Yeah. And if you like this video, give it a like, and please subscribe. And, well, bye for now.
Bye.